All right, part 3 of why nice guys finish last and how to change that by dating coach Naz.
So make sure that the people that are around you, they really love you for you, and you're not putting on a fake facade. So people can accept you for a version that is not aligned to you at all. There's a study again that's found that emotional authenticity in relationships leads to deeper, I think I've said this 10 million times by now, but leads to deeper emotional connection and higher satisfaction. Yes. Did you guys hear that? It leads to higher satisfaction. Yes, sex is great. All of those things are great. But what's going to lead to higher satisfaction in the relationship is emotional connection.
Sure.
It's a study. You gotta Google it. All right. So when you're pretending
It's a study. You gotta Google it.
to be someone you're not, it creates distance, right? And it prevents the relationship from being genuine. If you're not being your true self, she will eventually sense the disconnection, right? And the relationship will not have the foundation that it is needed for a long-term successful relationship.
Oh yeah, she's gonna detect instantly a lack of confidence in you, even if it's small, and it's going to continue to bother her. Even if she gets in a relationship with you, it's going to bother her. If she's a good woman, she's going to try to change that about you, and she's going to uplift you and give you confidence in yourself. But that's rare. That's incredibly rare that actually happens. It's just a skill issue with women. I don't know why they more often will nag a guy and lower his confidence when they're in a long-term committed relationship with the guy. It's actually quite ridiculous. Why wouldn't you be building the guy up to be more confident in himself? It's just always struck me as incredibly bizarre that women do that, but they do. But yeah, you need to be confident in yourself, and you need to really examine yourself. And it's annoying. Again, this a lot of statements to do with life are very annoying, but this idea that you need to love yourself before you can love somebody else is so true, especially for men, because of this thing, because of the lack of confidence that not loving yourself creates, right? You need to love yourself. You need to prioritize yourself, set boundaries like we talked about in this video. You need to take charge of your own life and your own happiness and create opportunities for more happiness and improve yourself. And while improving yourself and accepting that you're not perfect, that you have issues, that you're awesome, that you're confident in yourself, you should be confident in yourself, that you bring the world to any relationship that you're going to be in. And yeah, just understand that about yourself and stop being so harsh on yourself, because so many guys out there are so awesome, so cool. Like the fact that she said the statement that all men, not most men, all of them avoid conflict at all costs. That is true. There are so many things that you could say about literally all men that are just baseline incredible. She talked about emotional intelligence, right? You could say, oh, well, because of social conditioning and societal roles and gender roles, that men have to be the stable ones. But it's also just the fact that men just are mentally and emotionally more stable than women. Almost across the board. Obviously, there's mentally unstable men out there, but realistically, men are bringing way more stability to the table. right? Like, why do you think that there's studies out there that say that the best place for a child, environment for a child to grow up with, number one, like, two-parent household, mom and dad. But just below that is just dad. And then way down here at the bottom, like, it's actually a huge gap, just mom. So there's just mom, just dad, dad and mom. Like, all signs point to men bringing the freaking world to the table. Really. They really do. And, like, men, we gotta start accepting that about ourselves and understand, like, we're awesome. We're confident, and we should be confident. Right? And like, everything that she's talking about here, right? Like, we're the providers, we're the protectors, we're the stable ones, we're the leaders. Men, you need to, like, understand that you are that. If any part of you thinks that you aren't that, what's going on? Like, even if you're on welfare and you, like, live at home, or even if you're homeless, even if you live in a tent, you could still provide a ton of stuff. You could still provide food and security and stability to some extent. Obviously, if you're homeless, not a ton of stability, like security and all that. But realistically, if you're dating somebody, they're probably also homeless, potentially. It'd be weird for only one of the partners to be homeless. That'd be kind of strange. But honestly, most of the time, men are bringing the absolute world to the table. And it's so many little tiny things, right, that just go completely overlooked. And I think a lot of men get, like, really down on themselves, right? Like, think about who these nice guys really are. These guys who are, like, are finishing last, who aren't getting relationships, who them being nice is all they bring to the table. It's because they've been socially conditioned to think that that's the most important thing. So then they place all their value in that. They understand that they're lacking in some things, and they let that become their entire identity and, like, consume them in these, like, ways that they're lacking, instead of highlighting within themselves, not just, like, outwardly to other people, but internally to themselves, all of the positive. Right? I forget what movie it was, but I saw a post on social media earlier, where it was saying, oh, this movie wasn't even that bad. It's just that everyone focused on the negative instead of seeing the positive of whatever media it was. And it was true. It's like, yeah, certain times something's actually pretty freaking good, but people will only focus on the negative and value that enormously, and completely ignore all of the positives, right? Like, I'll just come up with an example out of my head. It's Avengers Age of Ultron. It's the second Avengers movie, and it's a banger, right? Why is it not coming on when I'm Googling it, and I'm barely misspelling it, and it's, like, not coming up. But this movie, Age of Ultron, awesome! It's awesome! Like, seriously, let's pull up the images. You got Scarlet Witch, you got Quicksilver, which they kind of did Quicksilver a little bit dirty, but you got Vision, you have the Avengers. Like, you have this giant cinematic universe that everyone loved. And you have a movie that's, like, got a solid villain, this, like, robot dude, this robot AI who's, like, hacking these other robots. I think he like hacks some of Tony Stark's suits. Like a pretty cool villain with a lot of personality. This movie, like you get a lot of really good stuff in this movie, but people are like, oh, well, it's not as good as the first one, therefore it's a total piece of dog crap. That's insane. That is such a demented way to look at anything, is to hate Avengers Age of Ultron. You are a lunatic. You are an absolute lunatic. Like, the action in this movie is awesome. It's literally awesome. It's got better effects than the first Avengers. The action is just as good. The plot's not as good, right? Like, it's kind of more of the same generic superhero plot, floaty thing at the end. There's things it certainly does wrong, but why would you focus on that, right? Why is that such a big deal, but other times it isn't? It's people just choosing to be negative and just hating on something and refusing to see the positive. It's ridiculous. It's not a good way to be.
Or maybe she's just toxic and she's okay to just take away your energy, because that's what narcissistic people do. I don't know if you guys know this, but they are like vampires. They take your energy, constantly take. And so you might just be stuck in a toxic dynamic and just cursing your life every single day. There's so many men that I speak to every day, and they're like, I'm just living here because of my kids, and I just want to wait till I retire and then die. I'm like, is this happening right now? It blows me away. It actually makes me sad when people just wait till they die or they retire to then have to have boundaries and then to have fun. And yeah, it makes me sad. Anyways,
I mean, I'd be haunting some people. I imagine. I agree completely. People who want to work for like 40 years and then retire, and they're like, yeah, but I'll be able to do what I want when I retire. I'll be 60, but I'll be able to do whatever I want. Wow, that sounds miserable. Earlier we talked about ambition. I think that's awesome when people want to just do what they want in their 20s and like have fun early on. Or even like throughout their adulthood. What sounds good about working for 40 years and then retiring? That sounds lame as hell.
The way to fix this is don't try to be somebody. Don't try to be someone you're not just to impress somebody, just for them to like you. You have to embrace your personality, your quirks, all of it. And the right woman will appreciate you for who you really are. It's like your tribe. She's going to find you. Your tribe is going to find you. Once you are your authentic self, you're...
Like me personally, I'm a very strange individual. I've never felt awkward silence. I've never cared to be cool or popular. It has never mattered to me at all. Never, at any point in my life. Like, say I watch a movie, and the characters in it, they're in high school, and they care about being popular, they care about being cool. I can't relate to the feeling at all. At all. Who cares? Never cared. I don't. Never have. And I understand that that's very strange that they put that in all this media, because it's a thing that everyone can relate to, those feelings. I just can't. I just never have. I've just never not had confidence in myself. Maybe it's because I've always been able to make people laugh and like have a good time, and I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's just something that I've just never cared about. But I've never had anyone that I've dated ever. Like, I've had people that I've dated say horrible things about me. In arguments after your breakup, all this stuff. But usually that's just like just weird, arbitrary stuff. They'll throw out a racist statement or something crazy. But I've never had, and there's things you can criticize me for, but I've never been criticized for my personality, which kind of makes sense because I'm pretty laid back. Like, I like to talk about stuff. I like to help people. I like to get to the nitty gritty. I can argue for a long time about stuff. I kind of enjoy arguing a little bit. But overall, I'm pretty chill and pretty laid back, and I just like to like do whatever, go with the flow, have a great time. We talked about wasting time. I'm actually pretty quite punctual, right? Like, I like to have a good time and sort of go with the flow, see where the day takes me a little bit. But I also like to do specific things, and that often requires being places at specific times. So I'm very punctual. And I think that's very important. And I don't like when people aren't punctual, aren't organized, when they're messy, dirty, which some people are. I don't like that. I can be a stickler, but I'm mostly not. And yeah, I've just always been confident in myself. I've never had, even in situations where someone is criticizing me and grasping at straws to criticize me, ever had a complaint about my personality. Never. In anyone that I've dated. Right? I've had people, really the only people who've ever had any major problems with me, I've always felt are just random people who are like jealous of me. Like, there's this one person I went to high school with where I could tell it annoyed them that other people thought I was funny. And I think it's just because they themselves weren't very funny. They just weren't very witty and clever. And, like, I'm not the most witty and clever person. I'm no comedian. I'm just a guy, right? Like, I also just have a very reasonable perception of myself. Just very, like, self-aware of, I'm just some chud on the internet. Like, I'm a nobody. I have an unsuccessful YouTube channel that I've been giving her for like a year, but I've seen very little growth. I've gotten, some views with multiple videos with thousands of views, but none have really like majorly popped off. I want to be successful at this one day, and I've definitely had great interactions with some people who've watched my videos, and where we've discussed some of these topics at great detail, and I could tell that it's helped them to some extent.
You're going to notice that a lot of your friends, by the way, firstly, they're going to start dropping like flies. And then you're going to notice, at the same time, you're going to notice you're going to notice people that start arising from the ashes. You're like, who is this person?
All right, that microphone just sprung up, and she's talking about arising. I instantly thought about a wiener, an erection. I don't know what's going on here, but this just took a wild turn.
And why am I having like such a good conversation with this person? And you're going to realize your values are more aligned. So as soon as you're authentic, it's scary. Not going to lie. It is scary to be authentic. It is scary to be real. But once you do it, you do a little bit of it.
She just said it's scary to be real. That's what I've never experienced. I've also never experienced stage fright. I've always been able to. It's like I don't experience it, or I just instantly overcome it. Right? Like, I can feel anxiety, but never social anxiety, never a stage fright. If I'm interviewing for a job, I can be nervous, but never in, like, socializing do I feel even a little bit of stage fright. Just never. But it definitely happens to people. I've seen it throughout my life, right? Like, I've took drama class in high school, and I mean, you notice it outside of that, of course. People socializing as you grow up, being weird. I also like do work in film, and not like work. Like, I ain't getting paid. I like film, and yeah. Sometimes, especially with like low budget indie stuff, you point it, camera points at actors, some of which have never really like acted necessarily at all, or they've done some like stage acting and stuff. They've just, sometimes they ain't been in front of a camera before, and they kind of freeze up. They get stage fright, right? Like, it's totally reasonable. I've just personally never experienced it. I'm not a good actor. I've never really tried to be an actor, but I feel like I wouldn't be good at it just because I can stumble over my words. I don't like my voice. And I feel like I would be a little bit of a perfectionist. Like, if I was really going to put effort into something and really, like, memorize what I'm going to say and get into the emotion of it, I feel like it would just annoy the hell out of me thinking about my own voice. If it was, like, a specific performance thing. If I was, like, performing, like actually acting, I feel like I'd be too self-critical in a way, and maybe I would experience stage fright. I don't know, but in like a real life context, and I guess I have done a little bit of acting, but I've just never actually experienced stage fright. I don't know. I look up overcoming stage fright if you have this issue.
It's like you're unlocking something, and then you keep doing a little bit more and a little bit more, and then before you know it, you're your authentic self. For example, if
that is 100% truth, and I think a lot of people out there who struggle with dating, they need to take that exact thing into consideration. You have to give yourself time. It takes time to get good at anything in life. Give yourself time. Get good. Get good at dating. And it's a process. It doesn't take a lifetime, but you need to be like asking people out and starting relationships and getting experience. You're not going to be great immediately. Nobody is, right? You need to learn about yourself and practice setting boundaries and get good at it. And the practicing setting boundaries will also help you understand what your boundaries truly are. Because if you've never dated before, you don't even know what your boundaries exactly are. That's the problem with these nice guys, is they're just people who haven't dated, so they don't even know what their boundaries are. They don't even know what they're supposed to be doing because they haven't done it yet. And that can create an issue, for sure. That makes it harder, right? That adds a level of anxiety to the whole thing, because you're all, like, anxiety is fear of the unknown, pretty much, right? Or like also can tie into having a lack of control, which kind of ties into fear of the unknown. But you have to put yourself out there, right? And if you're incredibly unconfident, if you're incredibly stressed out and you have no experience whatsoever, maybe you should look at who you're asking out, who you're attempting to start relationships with, right? Like, for example, like, say you encountered this woman, this dating coach Naz, right? Every time I pause, it's not the best pause on her, but decently attractive woman, but she's someone who's a dating coach. If you were someone who's never really been in a relationship and you were to date a dating coach, which means she's given a lot of thought to this, right? And her video is really good. I really like it. She knows what she's talking about here. She has experience, and she is at like a different level than you in dating. So it's going to not be... this isn't a great choice for you for your first relationship to be somebody who's a freaking dating coach, because they know what their boundaries are. They know what they want out of a relationship, and you don't have any idea, right? And so it would just put you at an imbalance. First of all, they're not going to want to date you, and you shouldn't want to date them, really. You should want somebody who's kind of at your same spot approximately in your dating life. which is something that is going to evolve over time as you get experience dating. And that's why you also need to... Now, this is going to be... Maybe I shouldn't be saying this, because I don't like to say things that have to do with like people that I know in my own personal life, but you certainly should not be jealous of people who have only been in one relationship and go and get married. Or maybe they've only been in like 2 relationships. Their second relationship ever is someone who they're married to. They don't know. They're down here with you, right? A dating coach has probably dated 10 plus people, right? Been in a bunch of relationships. So they understand all these things about dating. Somebody who's been in like one relationship, it doesn't matter if they've been married for like 12 years. They've never really dated, right? Like a lot of these people, it's like someone who they started dating when they were a teenager, and they're just like married to that person. That person has no idea about dating. And even like they've gone through the experience. They know some things about being in a very long-term relationship, right? That experience is valuable, but it's also lacking. It started down here, right? So it has a ceiling. Whereas if both people were up here and had dated a lot and really know what their boundaries are, really know what they want out of life and a relationship and what makes them happy and what they're willing to put up with, then that relationship, once that lasts 12 years, then think of how actually like valuable and strong that relationship with that foundation is. That structure is so much bigger than something that's just here, just these little huts down here, because we started dating when we were freaking 15 and we never dated anybody else, right? Some of those relationships can work. They certainly can, right? That's fine. But some of them don't. Most of them don't. Most of them are like have like major ridiculous cheating involved and blow up in disastrous, ridiculous ways because of that. Because they jumped into it. They don't even know themselves. They don't know what they want, right? So we're going to cut that here. That's part 3. See you in part 4. We're going to keep diving real deep into this topic, right? Because this is the nitty-gritty stuff that I like, and I'm loving this video, and I'll see you in part 4.